Afternoon all. I'm quite keen to look at more games for the World Rapid Championship. The one yesterday went down quite well. Sergey Karjakin, who was like a rival kind of child prodigy to Magnus Carlsen, child prodigy. So we're going to have a look at another game here. By the way, if there's any games you want annotating, say one or two games, maybe your own game or a master game, I'm quite keen on the idea of also promoting full membership of Chess World. So if you become a full member of Chess World during these quieter summer months, and let me know that you've become a full member, message me on YouTube, and along with 2 game requests, I'll give you 2 game requests to do 2 videos. So it could be your own game or a master game. So that's like a summer offer. I might do a specific video about that, but I thought I'd mention it here if you want to leave comments about that. That's a fair deal, isn't it? Chessworld.net. If you become a full member there, that's my correspondence site, which has got puzzles, annotated games. It's got lots of features anyway, but I'll also give you 2 videos. So that's a summer kind of offer. But I'm going to annotate some master games anyway, which really take my fancy. And this one I was quite interested in. So this is someone who, Kazakhstan kind of champion, who was invited to this FIDE Congress, because obviously it was held in Kazakhstan. So this guy is called Ismagambetov, who's 2471, but he's up against a super grandmaster, Sergey Karjakin. So what happened? D4, and Sergey played D5, and we get the Slav defense, rock solid system. E3, which does close in that bishop, but it stops all these issues with taking the pawn and B5 and stuff, or being able to get the pawn back. Bishop F5 though, and okay, this is quite an active move really, isn't it? You might think, okay, it's a sort of weakness here, this B7 might be exploitable at some point, but other than that, it also clears away these pieces for black potentially castling queenside. I don't know how that idea would have occurred, how many of us would have thought about this bishop F5 in the Slav as a means of castling queenside. In a similar structure in the Caro-Kann, you're sometimes castling queenside. So let's have a look at this game. Knight c3, e6. And now white goes for that light square bishop. Black goes here. And now white's not in a hurry to take on g6. At the moment, it will give black immediate dynamism on h2. White just plays bishop e2. And the knight can't be immediately exploited on h4. Although it's loose, what tactic can help exploit it? Not really, nothing much. So knight bd7. And now g3, which, okay, it does support that knight, as though that there might be some reason for caution. Okay, but black plays bishop d6, but not only it supports the knight, it means also that a knight takes g6 hg is not immediately hitting h2 as well. Okay, now white castles after queen e7. Now bishop d2, so it's as though this might not even happen now, because actually black hasn't committed his king yet. White would ideally wait for black to castle kingside, surely, so that rook is not naturally firing down at white's king. Okay, but in this position, now Sergey takes on c4, okay, even though b5 might not be the main idea. In fact, knight b6, and now black just castles queenside. So there's this open invitation, to get a ready-made attack, basically. You can imagine more pressure being built on white's king. But white goes now a bit for black's king. If he can get a tempo gain here, surely this looks like dangerous for the black king here. So he just moves his king here. Now queen b3. I think technically in this position, so far, if we did an engine evaluation, I think technically Houdini kind of thinks white's got a slight advantage. Slight advantage. Okay. So knight e4 now was played, which is quite a clever move. Not only attacking the bishop, if taking, then the bishop can potentially get another tempo gain on the queen. So knight takes, bishop takes. So f3, bishop d5 is an option. After a5, the knight goes back. Now f3 is played. Okay. But bishop d5 isn't played, just g5, just counter-attacking on the knight, which goes back now to g2. And now this move, bishop d5, is made use of. So these bishops are kind of raking into white's king position. Okay, so the queen is attacked, it goes to c2. Now black plays c5, which gives a square for this bishop to further retreat in case of e4. But a6 is played, which you might think, well, hang on a sec. Doesn't white want to open up the lines? But it does seem tricky how white would open up the lines here. But you wouldn't think a6 would play a big, role in that for line opening here. Maybe something, like b4 in the future. But the c file, black is readily placed, it seems, to contend the c file. So this looks as though you wouldn't want to do a blocking move like a6, but actually Engine likes that a6 as well, and e4. We're favouring e4 a lot with b4. Actually, you see this b4 idea being mentioned. So something like this here apparently would give white something b4. In principle, sometimes you just want to open lines and access paths to the king here. So a6, does it fit into that objectively? Honestly, I'm not really sure. Okay, but it was played. Okay, so b6 and now e4. The bishop goes all the way back to a8 now. And here we see e5, which potentially is weakening this diagonal. Bishop c7, and the centre's a bit loose, maybe a bit overextended. Rook ac1. Rook c8. Okay, it looks as though white's centre is just on the verge of collapse here. So the Slav in this game, this is why the game impresses me. It's been played in a very creative way with casting queenside, and black's got away with it really. There's no lines at the moment heading for his king. And now, okay, white plays d takes c5, and after knight takes c5. E5 is a liability and it's protected. But now knight e4, and it looks as though, black is now threatening bishop e5 and other things. Maybe this is going to be useful in the future. Bishop e3 was played. Now after bishop takes e5, okay, so it's a pawn sack by white, basically, queen b3. But there is immediate pressure now coordinated on b6 as compensation, which in many ways justifies the pawn on a6. So there's some method in the madness here, I believe, for black. And actually, we're coming up to a key blunder, because actually white doesn't stand objectively, from an engine point of view, that much worse here. Okay, less than pawn, but there's pressure on, at least there's pressure on white's king. So what happened was bishop d5. Okay, let's turn that off and get to a critical moment. Bishop c4, and now an exchange sack. Okay, with rook takes c4. So exchange for a pawn so far, and he takes on f4. And here I believe, I've checked this earlier, is the critical mistake that the kind of Kazakhstan grandmaster and champion made here. This is a very, very dangerous access route to the white king in principle, and I believe here white shouldn't have used the g pawn. He played g takes f4, which I think is the decisive mistake of the game. By playing g takes f4, unfortunately this gives time for black to not get wiped out by bishop takes b6, because this is going to be a wipeout move. You can imagine taking check and then all sorts of nasties on the horizon. For example, doubling rooks and rook c7, or something even quicker. In fact, a very, very powerful move was played here, which gives black an advantage. Rook g8, just letting the bishop drop here, but it can't be taken. In the game finished very quickly here. Bishop takes b6, and now the crushing blow, rook takes g2 check. So let's have a look at that on the big board. Rook takes g2 check is just slaughter time, because if king takes, then for example knight d2 check wins the queen, and white's not getting a mate or anything after just losing the queen. Okay, so he played actually king h1 and realized something else and resigned here. So it is like a forced mate here. I wonder if you can spot it as a challenge. If I give you 10 seconds, or you might want to stop the video, can you find the absolute forced mate continuation in this position as black? So 10 seconds starting from now to find the first move of the forced mate. Okay, remember it's all going to run with check because your king's getting blasted here, so knight g3 check would be the first move. And after the takes, can you spot the second move? Another 10 seconds here. And this is a very powerful move. Indeed. Very, very powerful move. Okay, rook takes g3 check. And white's had it here. You know, if he doesn't really want to put something in the way, but even if he does or moves his queen, the same black move would occur, which is, say king h2, can you see black just plays now queen h4 mate. So the same with putting something in the way, you don't bother like taking it, you can just mate here, queen h4. So the critical mistake, if we rewind, remember it's only 15-minute chess, so it's going to be a bit more exciting and blunder prone than longer games. 15-minute with 10-second increment. So here, the decisive mistake, g takes f4. Actually, objectively, white might not have been doing badly at all here, or much. You know, knight takes f4, keeps that g file closed. So say black grabs back the exchange. It's not really something to write home about from an engine point of view. It's about equal, like knight d6. Queen b4, you know, white's not getting slaughtered on the g file. So maybe a bit of luck, shall we say? I don't know whether to call this luck or something. Or a good player is always lucky, Capablanca said something like that. Or there's no luck in chess, some other people have said. What do you think about this g takes f4? Maybe, you know, it was expecting a bishop retreat. If we see a bishop retreat just out of interest, to try and get to the mystery of it, g takes f4. So, say bishop d6 had been played. Even here, though, black's doing fine with that g file. You know, maybe okay. Let's imagine rook c1, rook g8, and still huge threats of rook takes g2 here. So this all seems a bit slow in this position. But say white's got bishop takes b6, rook takes g2, king takes, knight d2. And if here king f1, then again knight d2 check. So no, this g file is just terrible. You know, what would white actually be doing in that position? So knight takes f4 would have been, it seems, a significant improvement for white. Just keep the king safe. I'm not one to talk so many times, especially in the morning. I'm having an unsafe king, thinking about my own attack. It's something easy to do in blitz chess, and this was a kind of, well, a rapid game, but only 15 minutes for the main, you know, control, and then 10 seconds for each move. So, okay, it's an understandable mistake. Let's review the game. So, interestingly, though, the Slav being used in a very aggressive manner in this variation for casting queenside. So white never playing knight g6, but black not caring about that, and in fact the bishop rerouting to the centre, taking the opportunity to get onto a very dangerous diagonal here in this game, instead of lurking on this diagonal. Of more relevance to the white king safety is this diagonal, and g2 was a disaster area later, as we saw with the g file just coming together for the rook and the bishop rather neatly. Okay, and it's unfortunate, of course, that the white's queen is there for these knight d2 discovered checks against the king. Okay, so an interesting game. Hope you enjoyed it. Comments or questions on YouTube. Thanks very much.